This one is actually on worship music, specifically Hand the God, worship music. Steffany Gretzinger talking about this. Let's jump into it.
Listing off all of the charts. And until song like 60, there wasn't even anything that was to the Lord. About
What do you
him.
mean? So
all of the song, there are all these Christian songs that are considered worship.
Right.
Oh, this is painful to me. They're considered worship, but they're not actually to him, about him. They're about what we get out of it.
Yeah, we touched on this. We touched on this, but keep going.
We did. And, you know, she might be making an excellent point. And I think I could be wrong on this. But, you know, sometimes I look at this and I think about, like, the Christian music industry. And I think, well, when you're looking at top charts, right, like, it could just simply be that there's a lot of new artists coming out and they're producing just regular music that's cultural but still glorifying the God, and they're just getting a lot of hits, so they're showing up on the top of the charts, right? And the Christian music industry is labeling it worship, which is a problem in my opinion. And that could be the reason for it. But I totally agree. Like, I do think that there's a big difference between, you know, a Hillsong song that, despite all the controversy at that church, if you listen to the worship music, it is to God, pretty much every song, compared to, you know, maybe like Holvey or something that's singing a little bit more cultural song.
Yeah, and I think we are designed to worship. So when we are having really intentional time with God, it is the idea that my mind and my thoughts are on him and off of myself and my problems. So that's not to say that some of the songs she's mentioning aren't for us at different times. Like you mentioned, there's a time to be reminded of who God is and what he's done for you. However, one of the best practices that I got from my church in Arizona was before worship, they would do one song and then they would stop and they'd have a time of confession where they would just, everyone pauses, it's silent, and it's getting your heart right before God before we continue into worship to say, this is now a holy space.
Yep.
It is going to be wholly about him, and we are going to give a sacrifice of praise to him. And I think that that's a really beautiful and sweet thing to do. Now, I'm not saying all of your music has to be that. It's definitely not for me. However, the more of that you have in your life, you will see an impact, and you will walk away like, that's when you tear up in worship, man. I mean, that's a soft moment for me, but like when I'm really thinking of the goodness of God and worshiping before him, there's something in my soul and in my spirit that goes, this is good, this is true, this is right, and it's all because of you and who you are. And I think it's very important to have a heart of worship while worshiping.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, you know, when we listen to these songs, and there may be a place for it, like, and maybe you're going through something or whatever it is, at the end of the day, the greatest miracle that God ever did for us was what he did on the cross.
Yeah.
And that alone is worth worshiping him for. And we have to stick to that, I think. You know, we have to evaluate our own hearts and go, when am I making that time to truly be thankful for what he did for me? And that has to be part of our walk.
Yeah.
And it's going to be part of our eternity. So it better be part of our walk now.
Yeah, and I think it's a really beautiful thing in the sense that, like, man, if you start in the space of worshiping him, how everything goes into place. Like, you're convicting me to be like, oh, you know, in the morning, I should really start with worship music to start my day. And like, we're really blessed to live in a time when we can have music on demand anytime you want.
Yes.
Like, you're surrounded by it all the time. And so making the choice to go into a worshipful praise of him will dictate everything. And we're happier when it's not about us. That music's good. Like, our lives are better when it's not about ourselves. So having music that glorifies him and not ourselves is good for us, and it makes us happier. It does.
Yep.
Like, you actually benefit from it.
I totally agree. All right. Well, Cam, did you want to talk about?
I wanted to do just a short list with you, because one of the things we talk about is we always want to provide solutions to things.
Right.
So it's not going to be an exhaustive list, but I was just talking to Mark, our producer, before we got on this podcast, and I was listing off a bunch of artists that he hadn't heard of before. You know, there's a new Lauren Daigle song with Envoy that's actually kind of like an upbeat, almost EDM-like feel. And it's like, did you know that Lauren Daigle did music besides the kind of like that ho-hum sort of thing? And like, he didn't know about Indie Tribe, and he didn't know about 1K Few in like the rap scene, or Aha Gazelle. Like, and some of these artists aren't perfect, but they are trying to go after God in their music. And I would recommend, like, if rap's that area for you, like, go in that direction. And I came across, like, I'm a big metal fan, and I came across Holy Name. And Holy Name is an incredible Christian metal band. I mean, I think their most popular song is Creed, which is based off the Nicene Creed. And it's amazing to go back and be like, oh, I can keep my heavy metal guitar. I can keep those drums. I can keep these things. And, you know, one of the things for me is I really appreciated music that had heavier themes in it that can still be holy. Like, they have a song called Mr. Millstone, like, to give you an idea, right? Where, like, this is still God honoring music, but we are tapping into other phases of who God is. And there's a space and a place for that. And there's tremendous creativity available to Christian artists to go in that direction. So I didn't want to not list at least a few names to say, look, if you're into metal music, like, there's a place for you. Like, I remember when I was growing up, it was like just Under Oath. That was like the only thing you had.
Yeah,
like,
that didn't work out well.
That didn't work out well. But to say that there's not other artists in this vein, you can keep your metal, you just have to find the right artists. You can keep rap, you can keep hip hop, but you just have to find these artists. And I don't want to say, because like growing up, it was the idea that like rap and metal are out. And then, you know, some people broke through and some people did a better job of breaking through. Like Lecrae is always the name that comes up, or Andy Mineo is the name that comes up. And like, those guys do have some great music. And at the same time, they've blazed the trail for a younger generation that's doing great things from an independent platform standpoint. And it would be wrong to say these genres are out. It's better to say there's actually a great exploration for you to find really great, talented music. And one of my favorite things to do in the car with non-believers is to play that music without telling them. And I can't tell you how many times they've looked over at me and been like, who is this? This is like a jam. And I'm like, yeah, it's unbelievable. So I just wanted to list a few names. If you have some to throw out as well, it's just this idea that like, there's so much more available to you in the genres that you love, and you're really not sacrificing. Like you are gonna walk away. You know how good it is to listen to metal music and feel good afterwards? Yeah. Because usually when I listen to metal music, I kind of walk away a little bit like still angry. Yeah. And it was like, I was enjoying that because like as an emo kid, like that was like, yeah, I wanted to be in that space. And to have things that sound that way, that are glorifying, that tap into an anger or hurt, but in a holy way, man, like you're gonna walk away better. Yeah.
So if you like that video, you can watch another one right here. And if you want to see the full podcast, you can click right here. And as always, 25% of all proceeds go to missions, and you can always check us out, disciples.us.